Hi everyone, welcome to the Business Buzz. This is episode number 2 on the World Options eCommerce channel. My name is Noor and this is Sibel, our customer service manager. Today we'll be talking about some issues that retailers come across when they're booking in shipments with some of the large carriers that we're partnered up with. And we'll have a quick discussion with Sibel just about how to avoid these issues and how to safely transport all your goods. We'll start with how to avoid loss and damage during transit and how to correctly package all your goods when you're shipping your product.
Thanks for the introduction, Noor. So going on to loss and damage, the best way to prevent damage basically is the way you're packaging your items. Make sure you're following the guidelines all the carriers set. Anything that's obviously fragile, make sure it's wrapped in bubble wrap as much as packaging you can put. Also, make sure there's a fragile sticker on there because obviously there's no way for the carriers to know that it is a fragile item. But really, it all just comes down to the packaging and how you package it. The best way is to follow the guidelines. With loss, I would say it's more about having the correct information on your label. That would be the best way for the carriers to locate it if they're searching for it. But damage can also play in that because a lot of the items, they'll end up getting damaged and they might ruin the label and then it can be put aside and then that way it just doesn't scan and the carriers can't contact us to let us know because the label's damaged. So it basically all comes down to your packaging, really.
Okay. And when you say like put in the correct information, is that all inclusive of like pickup details, delivery details, dimensions?
Double checking, making sure the address is 100% correct with the postcode state. If you put it in Google, it'll automatically fix it for you anyway. Right receivers, right phone numbers, all those kinds of things.
Yeah. And I think another point as well would be like residential addresses. If you don't know if it's a business address or residential, it's probably best to check on Google before sending it off as well. And businesses that are run from homes are technically residential addresses, so that's also another point to keep in mind. Thank you, Sibel, for that. Now I would like to talk about missed pickups and how customers can avoid that with the carriers.
So the way that they can avoid that is basically making sure they're putting the correct opening times for their business. Some customers say our portal kind of sometimes defaults to 2 p.m. close times. Some of the customers, I think, just kind of look past it. They don't realize, and then they're like, oh, why isn't this picked up? And it's like, well, it's 2 o'clock. So if the driver didn't make it by 2, he's going to look and be like, oh, they close at 2, I'm not going to make it. And then he just won't come.
And sometimes they won't even accept the job. Because
if it's
very
like,
limited,
then they know they're not going to make it by that time.
Yeah.
So it's always best to put 9 to 5. That's the hours that the carriers do work in, the drivers. But also, if you're not open till 5, just put the latest possible time to get it collected, pretty much.
Yeah. And with customers that have short opening hours, how do you suggest to go about it?
I would suggest either doing a drop-off at the depot or they can organize a daily collection. So we can actually contact the carriers and say, this customer would like to organize daily collections where one driver will be assigned to collect their shipments every day and they'll arrive at that same time every day.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that's good to know. How about with returns of some products? How do the carriers contact you and let you know this is going to be returned to sender, or if a customer wants to do a return, how do you go about that without causing any further issues?
So normally the carriers will contact us for returns if there's an issue with it. So incorrect address, receiver refused the delivery, obviously damage to that, like, they'll contact us first, asking us what we'd like to do, and obviously we'd confirm with the customer. And then we'd obviously just, depends on what the customer wants. If they want it returned, then we'll just return it. But a lot of customers do contact us and say, we need this returned.
Yeah.
We would just contact the carrier, make sure, let them know that we want this returned, and then they'll process it.
Yeah.
But majority of the time, when the carriers are requesting information, say like it's an incorrect address, etc., they only give a limited amount of time before they return it. Like 48 hours is probably the most. So we have to make sure we get an answer in that 48 hours, because if we don't, they're just going to return it anyway.
And how do you ensure that the customer is responsive to the information that you need?
We send them an email, obviously, and then, but if they don't get back to us before the day ends, we give them a call.
Okay, beautiful. And does that usually fix most of the problems with returns? Okay. And how about the extra fees and surcharges on returns? What sort of happens when it is requested as RTS from the carrier?
Normally the carrier won't RTS unless we've given them the authority to do that. So if we've given them the authority to do that, then if there is a fee, because majority of the time there isn't a fee for RTS, but there is a lot of occasions where there can be a fee. It really depends on the distance, I suppose. Every carrier is different, but if we request it, they do charge. But and also if we don't get back to them in time and they return it and there's a charge, they will charge for it.
And will they let you know about the charge, or does it come after?
No, they don't. They let us know after, which is a little annoying to
customers.
But
No, I can imagine. So it's sort of something that you kind of just have to wait it off and see how it goes.
And we always try our best, though, when it comes and the customer's not happy, we try our best to get a credit. But
of course.
At the end of the day,
it depends on the carrier, of course.
Really.
And how about for any oversized items, or what they call ugly freight? How do you, what do you suggest to retailers when sending out items like that? What can they avoid to sort of avoid any issues in the future?
Oversized ones, I would obviously always go back to the packaging requirements that the carriers put in place. They put those in place so you don't have to get those oversized charges. So basically, if there's something that exceeds dimensions in kilos, you have to put it on a pallet. You cannot ship it as a parcel. It goes for OH&S for their drivers and warehouse workers, as well. You can't lift heavy things. But if they are sending things out that fall under that requirement, they will get a manual handling fee or an oversized fee. That's why it's always best to follow the guidelines that all the carriers put in place, and we make sure our customers know this so they don't get those charges.
And these extra fees and surcharges, they're provided by carriers? Okay, and they're given out, through us to customers as well? And they are available online as well if you do jump on the carriers' websites. With any additional manual handling fees as well, how do you go about when a customer disputes an invoice? What do you do with investigations?
Well, first we'll try and figure it out first why they've gotten that fee, to see if it is plausible to query with the carrier. So if we see the issue as to why they've gotten it, we'll let them know, well, this is the actual issue as to why you've gotten the charge. But if we see that we don't see a reason why they've been charged it, we will always query it with the carrier. And basically we just find out from them why they've charged it. And if it's not
feasible,
they will majority of the time credit it. And if we can prove it, especially with size requirements, a lot of the carriers will audit things larger dimensions than what the customer's booked in. All we have to get from the customer is a measuring tape up against each dimension, a photo, send it to them, and they basically can't say anything from then on, and they credit it.
That way it's like
so we kind of have to give proof. But there's a lot of steps you have to go through and it depends really what the query is about.
Thank you for that. When's the best time frame you would suggest for a customer to put a invoice query through once their invoices are released?
We normally let them know within 2 weeks from the invoice day, because that's the best chance for us to get a credit, because sometimes when you leave it for too long, the carriers are just kind of like, it's been too long. We can't query this. Like we have customers sometimes 3 months before trying to query things, and there's just at that point it's really out of our hands. So obviously the most earliest possible.
Of course.
Would be the best.
And how long does it take for the carriers to get back to you, or does it depend on each carrier?
It depends on each carrier, and it depends what the query is.
Okay.
Really.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about what sort of issues do you come across during work hours with customer service or accounts? What sort of regular issues do customers face?
We get really all of them in a day pretty much, but I'd say the more we get is just people wanting to know where the package is, how long it's taking, why hasn't it been delivered yet. And I would say with invoices, it would be charges, especially recently. This year, the carriers have really cracked down on manual handling fees and everything. So they're charging it basically to everything that doesn't pass. They're getting really serious about it. So I think that's
and residential fees as well.
Residential fees, because a lot of the carriers are charging that now. So they're making sure they don't miss any. So that's, pretty much.
And I know with Star Trek, any sort of flat pack or...
with Star Trek's the main one for manual handling fees, because pretty much everything will incur manual handling fee. Flat packs, cylinders, things wrapped in plastic, things with fragile stickers.
Fragile, yeah, of course. And do other carriers do that as well, or is it just mainly Star Trek?
Mainly Star Trek have that. The other carriers will just charge manual handling fees for things that are large that are not pelletized.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, okay. And with pellets, what sort of issues do you usually come across with customers that move bulk freight or pellets? So whether it comes to like extra fees or anything that's overhanging, or a customer that doesn't have a forklift on the other end, what sort of...
With the pallets, there isn't actually much issue when people strap their pallets on and perfectly put the correct dimensions. They won't actually have much issues. The only thing is obviously if the receiver doesn't have a tailgate and they don't book it, they might get a tailgate fee for the driver using a tailgate. Or if they put the incorrect dimensions in, some people don't actually count the pallet into their dimensions, which you're supposed to. So that can incur extra.
I can see why that would happen.
And then I would say the only reason something on a pallet will get damaged is if the customer hasn't packaged it correctly, as in strapping it down or wrapping it.
And I'm assuming sometimes the carriers can damage some
goods.
Whether it's an accident on the forklift or anything, even errors occur. To conclude this episode, the last topic we'll talk about would be manifests. Why are manifests important with carriers?
They're important because they're basically more for the customer. It's their kind of proof of collection. A manifest is the document that the driver will sign once they've collected those items and those consignments. So for, say, instance, the driver accidentally doesn't scan the box. It doesn't scan, where's the package? Then the only way for them to query it, look for a depot search, is provide that manifest to show while your driver did pick it up.
So it's just like a declaration.
It's like, it's just a proof of collection. It's actually more in the customer's favor. That's why we really push them to get those signed.
And also for insurance purposes.
Insurance purposes too,
And what happens after it's been delivered? Do they just throw it away, or what do you...
Well, it's up to them. They can keep it or they can get rid of it. But once it's been delivered, they don't really need it.
They don't really need it. Yeah, of course. Thank you for that. Thank you guys for listening to our second episode today. If you would like to hear more from us, please like and subscribe and share, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.